And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather Show. We've got some conflicting reports about when the latest CME is going to arrive. It could be a major geomagnetic storm. See yesterday's Daily Space Weather video for details on that. And we'll show you the forecasts here. But as we do on the regs, here comes the world's most detailed solar imagery and most comprehensive Daily Space Weather Show. This is the past 24 hours from SDO. These wavelengths are good at showing plasma filaments in the lower corona, also good at showing coronal holes, which is what that feature is you see rotating in there from the left. A large coronal hole. And like I said, we've got lots of filaments as well. That coronal hole will become geo-effective in a little under a week. That equatorial view is pretty sweet. Again, major CME headed Earth's direction. We'll talk about the forecast here a little bit later in the video. Here's the northern hemisphere, and you'll see lots of plasma filaments up there. Likelihood of coronal mass ejections remains at nearly 100%, folks. Remember, you don't need to see solar flares or even sunspots to see coronal mass ejections. These are indeed separate phenomenon. There are some sweet filaments setting in the northwest. And here's a little closer view of some rising in the northeast. And that Earth scale will give you some idea of the size of what we'd call a small solar prominence, which is when a filament hangs off the edge of the solar disk, making it prominent. So here's a close-up view of some new sunspots that just rose yesterday. And that coronal hole, which is shaped kind of like a triangle, which means it's very dangerous, folks. People are spooked of things that are shaped like shapes. So for some reason, geometry is scary, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's sacred. Maybe it's sacred geometry, geography, geology. I don't know. And that CME did come from this sunspot here at sunspot 3500. One of the more exciting sunspots of the entire solar cycle. And here's a close-up of another prominence rising in the southeast, just behind the southernmost region of that South Pole-oriented coronal hole. And let's briefly take a look at sunspots next. There's the SDO continuum, and sunspots did rise a little bit since yesterday. The sunspot number did, at least. Modest increase in the sunspot number. We will get to that momentarily. That is yesterday plus today. That's November 28th and 29th to date. Here's the magnetogram for the same period. As we inch closer and closer to solar maximums, which we are expecting this solar maximum to arrive sometime around September of 2024. And before we continue on, don't forget to press the like button if you enjoy the content. And if you want to support the channel, consider becoming a member of the Smash Team at smashomash.com/Smash Team. It's the official subscription services site of the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And congratulations on realizing it exists. Frankly, we are surprised that you were able to find it with the pathetic state of censorship on the internet today. So it doesn't seem to matter if there's some relevant space weather coming in that could possibly even damage some power grids. Doesn't really seem to matter. The algorithms are completely broken. So we created our own website, smashomash.com/Smash Team, to provide additional content and battle the putrid censorship engine that is all relevant social media monopolies. Smashomash.com/Smash Team will get you additional content and email alerts. There's a bronze level, there's a silver level, there's a gold level, there's a gold annual paid up subscription, which is the best value. Links at the homepage at smashomash.com, and welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Smashomash.com, launched back in February of 2019. So visit that if you're unable or unwilling to open your cobweb-encrusted wallet. The rest of these are paid endorsements. Help keep the channel existent, publicly visible, and free for all to view by visiting the paid endorse links below the video. You can find a bunch of them in the description. Today's featured product from the Redbubble merch shop is We'll Keep an Eye on It. You see what I did there? Pun intentional. We'll keep an eye on it, folks. Massive savings across the Redbubble shop. Look at that. 25% off, 30% off, 40% off the lightweight hoodie. Massive savings site-wide at redbubble.com. Don't worry about the space weather, folks. We'll keep an eye on it. And we'll be sane about our coverage of it. The Daily Space Weather. Another featured product, series of products, is hemplucid.com. You can find our link to our Hemp Lucid storefront below this very video. If you're just on hemplucid.com, enter the promo code SMASHOMASH10 on checkout to save 10% on your order. The promo code SMASHOMASH10 will save you 10%. They make great gifts. I personally endorse the Focus Mushroom Gummies. The most popular product is the water-soluble CBD tincture. Hemplucid.com, enter the promo code SMASHOMASH. It'll save you 10%. So that's SMASHOMASH10 is the promo code. SMASHOMASH10. It'll save you 10% on checkout at hemplucid.com. We've also got lots of different products available on the Amazon store. One of those is resveratrol. If you want to increase your athletic performance, perhaps resveratrol is something you ought to try. And it has multiple sources there. It's got a bunch of, green tea extract, grapeseed extract, vitamin C, acai extract, pomegranate extract, blueberry extract, and more. Perhaps check that out. Maybe that'll boost your athletic performance if you're concerned about it. Or maybe you've already got enough athletic performance. I don't know. This one won't fall as an illegal performance-enhancing substance if you are an endurance athlete. So maybe check out resveratrol there. See if you get some results. And if you do, let us know in the comments. Amazon.com/shop/SmashoMash. I take the resveratrol 1450 each day. Next, get into volcanoes. Because it's time to cover volcanoes. And Reykjanes is not erupting. So it's all quiet on the Icelandic front. No new eruptions there. It looks like the likelihood of an eruption is dropping. We're waiting for more seismic activity to resume to thereby increase the likelihood once again. Here are the volcanoes that are currently erupting. Manam is exploding. Mount Manam on Papua New Guinea producing a 7,000-foot ash plume. Luatolo exploding as well. 7,000-foot ash plume over the Lesser Sunda Islands. Krakatoa, the daughter of Krakatoa, exploding. Flight level 070, a 7,000-foot ash plume. 14,000-foot ash plume over Semeru, located on East Java, Indonesia. Dakono exploding. 10,000-foot ash plume. Popocatépetl exploding. 20,000-foot ash plume over central Mexico. Guatemala has two, Santiaguito and Fuego. Flight level 140 over Santiaguito. Flight level 150 over Fuego. Sangay exploding. Flight level 150. Revenador exploding. Flight level 150. And flight level 250 over Sabancaya in Peru. The world's largest ash plume there. Sabancaya, as it explodes, it's producing a flight level 250. There is a list of volcano warnings and currently erupting volcanoes. It's a pretty decent list. Next, earthquakes. And here's what is going on for the past 90 days. Seismic activity low over the past 24 hours. These are the quakes of a 5 or greater magnitude. I don't even know if we had any, barely any. It's been a quiet 24 hours in terms of earthquakes. We've had 0 5 or greater magnitude quakes. So very low levels of seismic activity. And let's head back to space. It's a race, it's a chase. Here's a bunch of solar activity in your face. The ever-popular SDO 171 angstroms. And let's get into some additional stuff here, like the 10.7. The 10.7 centimeter radio flux has dipped. So what can I say? Sunspot number came up as forecast. Radio flux has dipped. That's the current state of affairs. Pardon my partially translucent appearance. My face remains opaque. So 10.7 is at 172 right now. There's the 1 year graph represented by the black line is the radio flux. Red line is the sunspot number. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard here forecasting only mild geomagnetic storms starting early in the day tomorrow and then also early in the day on December 1st. So they've got 2 of the 3 CMEs that we called. And we're expecting the most extreme one to be the night of November 30th to December 1st. Could be as high as a KP8. It certainly looked like it was a quite perfectly directed Earth-directed CME. And could be a KP8, a G4 class geomagnetic storm. I would say if I had to guess, and I don't, as I am not a betting person, I would expect it to get to, if I had to guess, 7.33. That's my guess. You might see the aurora quite far south, and here come the forecasts from the NOAA-Enlil spiral. So that's NOAA's forecast. Again, events expected to be arriving early tomorrow and early in the day on December 1st, bringing in the 12th month of the year with some significant solar activity. So excited about that. And dear Facebook, approve our ads. They need to go up before the CME arrives. Otherwise, it doesn't really do very much for forecasting, does it? So here's NASA's forecast, and they're only showing one of those 2 CMEs. And they are showing a little earlier time. So part of the reason why we forecasted that to arrive on the 1st is because the initial radio burst showed as quite a low speed. So that could be an indication that it was quite dense and concentrated and behind the coronagraph. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. Keep in mind, CME impact intensities depend on a lot of things. Particle speed, particle density, magnetic field strength, magnetic field orientation. So there's a lot that goes into how a CME actually behaves when it strikes. And let's move on to Earth's magnetic moment from space. Here are the past 4 hours. That is the Space Weather Modeling Framework's depiction of likely magnetohydrodynamic pressure to about 12 Earth diameters. So that's the magnetosphere for the past about 4 hours. We'll let that play through since it refreshed. Please keep in mind, we don't edit the videos. They may seem like a live stream, but they are actually uploaded. We don't edit them to get them onto your screen as quickly as possible. And that is why the bloopers remain in the videos. If we had all the features we have for an upload, we would stream all of these daily space weather videos live. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. This is a great way to view the aurora if you're wondering where it will be visible. We've used this ourselves to take some auroral imagery here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. That's the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground, depicting magnetic flux density in nanotesla. Those are the units of magnetic flux density. And here come the KP index. KP is currently only at 2. KP2, it's a geomagnetically calm scenario for general Earth global geomagnetism. Next, looking at our 2 solar wind spacecraft. First, the ACE. The ACE showing a pretty slow and pretty diffuse solar wind there. About 2 protons per cubic centimeter and less than 400 kilometers per second. Discover showing a much denser solar wind there, more like 4 protons per cubic centimeter. And a faster solar wind as well from Discover, about 450 kilometers per second. We can expect to see some major signals when those 2 CMEs do arrive, starting tomorrow, folks. Our GOES magnetometers are next, and you could expect these to jump all around. That is what happens during a geomagnetic storm. For the past 3 days, pretty smooth. Next, our top view ecliptic plane field plot. Earth is in a south pole magnetic heliosphere sector, shown there in red. That's what's going on. South pole. Welcome to the South Pole heliospheric sector. Here is our line of sight field plot. And like I said earlier, we've got a major South Pole oriented coronal hole rotating in, which we'll get to after we show the line of sight ecliptic plane field plot. And we are still a few days out from a likely North Pole sector, which brings us to coronal holes. Like I said, that coronal hole in the southeast is of South Pole orientation. And there's the last image, a great view of that coronal hole. And let's move to SDO 211 angstroms, that is. SDO 211. And if that's not a close enough view for you, don't worry. We'll keep an eye on it. There's a closer view. Coronal holes are the source of high-speed solar wind. The exact physics of how it works are poorly understood, I guess I'll say. So that's kind of interesting. There are some theories as to how coronal holes work. We'll have to save that for a different video, like a cosmology segment. Or maybe it'll be a heliophysics segment. I don't know. But there's a great view of that South Pole coronal hole. Again, you can expect that to become geo-effective in about 6 days. 5 or 6 days. And it might be a significant impact from that. We might see geomagnetic storms. Next, moving to sunspots, and let's talk about the data first. Sunspot number did come up slightly, as we forecasted yesterday. So, no surprise there to our regular viewers. There you go. There's a sunspot number from Rob, the Royal Observatory of Belgium. Just below 170, looks like about 168 is the current sunspot number. And here's our flare probability and scoreboard. We still do have a high likelihood of large solar flares from sunspot 3500. First of all, also sunspot 3494, which is to its west, and a high likelihood of solar flares in the western limb in general. So this is the area to watch for large flares, folks. That region right there is by far the most likely place to see a large solar flare. And we'll have at least one new sunspot getting named by tomorrow. That'll be 3506. That alpha class sunspot that's large but not magnetically complex, that just rose just north of the heliospheric equator. The heliographic equator, I guess you'd call it. And let's take a look at sunspots from SDO. There you go. And let me just switch back here for a minute. I think we've got some more groups that are going to get named in the Northern Hemisphere as well. So we've only got 3503, but there are like a couple more groups here. So we might see a larger increase in the sunspot number. Keep in mind we're going to lose some sunspots here when 3489 and 3499 set in the southwest. Anyway, no need to over-forecast. And by the way, there are 2 channels on YouTube that are able to forecast. The Smash News Network Least Busted Name and News, and Tamitha Skov. That's it. That's it. Tamitha Skov and me. We forecast space weather. Everybody else poses. Are you a poser? Don't try to sharplight our viewers. We forecast. A lot of channels can't. You want to see a close-up of sunspot 3500? Well, this is a space weather dictatorship, so I'm not asking, I'm telling. There you go. Sunspot 3500 in exquisite detail for the past 24 hours from the SDO HMI, the HMI instrument. Kind of like visible light, it shows a spectrum of different wavelengths. Fantastic view there of sunspot 3500. And let's get to solar energetic particles and solar flares. So it's a prime time to explain why you shouldn't get solar flares and coronal mass ejections confused. Coronal mass ejections are protons. Solar flares are photons. No spikes in the proton flux. And no big spikes in the X-ray flux either. So, yeah, it's been pretty calm as far as solar flares for the past 24 hours. This M9.8 class flare occurred just before we did yesterday's video. If you want to see more about that, watch yesterday's video. Here are the past 24 hours from SDO in 94 plus 131 angstroms. Again, the most likely place to see a large solar flare would be in the west and southwest. That is a 24-hour video. Anyway, moving right along, it's time to show a star chart. That's skyandtelescope.org. That's what's going on overhead where I am. And we're located in, by the way, once again, folks, Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. If you want to do some bike riding, come to our town. We've got some of the sweetest roads. I guess it's better to do it in the summertime. But anyway, that's what's going on overhead at the moment. We've got some gas giants up there like Saturn and Jupiter. And the moon should be rising here shortly. There it is. The gibbous waning moon. And here's your solar system forecast. There's where things are today. We'll advance this 1 week. We will have a crescent waning moon by December 6th. And where did the time go? This year has flown past. Check it out. The astronomy photo of the day is pretty interesting. It is a land spout. Yeah, a land spout. Gotta love that. Kind of like a tornado, kind of like a water spout, kind of like a dust devil. It's actually two features there. It's like a... Keep in mind, folks, dust devils start from the ground and go up. Tornadoes start from the clouds and come down. So there's actually two different events. This is actually sort of a rare event right here. It is literally a tornado and a dust devil together. So that's the astronomy photo of the day. And of course, these are kind of rare in the solar system. We only see tornadic activity on the sun. Dust devils on Mars and real tornadoes really only occur on Earth, as far as we know. I wouldn't be surprised to see them happening on Jupiter and Venus. It's just that the clouds are a little too thick for us to see them there. And let's continue on to CMEs. Yeah, CMEs. Those will definitely be a story, right? So here are CMEs from yesterday. And you'll see the one that's earthly directed right there. A nearly perfect halo eruption. Could be a little bit stronger than NOAA's forecast. Don't be surprised to see a KP8. We're expecting a KP 7.33. If I had to guess, and I don't. So that's yesterday's CMEs. That's 103 frames from yesterday. Here are today's coronal mass ejections. And it has been pretty calm. We'll let you know if any of these are earthly directed here momentarily. That's 89 frames from today, November 29th. And moving right along, here's LASCO's C2 and C3. Let's just skip that and get a little closer. And we'll let those play through for your viewing pleasure. We do have the C2 a little bit ahead of the C3, so starting now on the left, the Soho LASCO C2. A few hours behind that, the LASCO C3 on the right. It's just a zoomed out coronagraph on the same spacecraft. We did see something coming out of the southwest. Too minor to even notice? What's up with that? Let me bring that back. That is not much. So a little bit of ejecta there out of the southwest and maybe out of the southeast. Could be another earthly directed CME. Let's take a look at Stereo A next. Stereo A's coronagraph and difference imagery. There's the raw coronagraph on the left. Difference imagery on the right. Let me bring that back. I'm just going to do the difference imagery because it tends to have a little bit more contrast to it. It looks like it did get some relativistic particles just before noontime, right there. Could be more earthly directed ejecta. Fingers crossed on that. Let's take a look at our custom coronagraphs. So this video starts out with yesterday's CME. That is almost perfectly earthly directed. And then the rest of it is, let's get a little closer here. That's SDO 193 angstroms. And it looks like another event with earthly directed components. So the CMEs will continue here. That'll be another CME likely to arrive on, let's see, late in the day on December 1st or early in the day on December 2nd. More ejecta headed our way. It's definitely a good way to start the month here for space weather. Things are getting exciting mighty quickly. So once again, that ejecta came out of this area right here. It was sometime around, let's see here, about 1400 Universal Time, it looks like to me. Here we'll zoom in one step closer and drop the coronagraph. That's SDO 304 plus 193 angstroms. Yeah, so another Earth-directed CME, or at least a CME with earthly directed components, coming out of that same area, sunspot 3500. It's almost like a star within a star. Anyway, let's move on. We don't want the video to be too lengthy. Let's take a look at filaments next. And yeah, filaments. Wherefore art thou filaments? Because there are magnetic fields defying gravity and holding those filaments up. Here you can see this awesome activity yesterday. A nearly X-class flare. And a bunch of spiraling around there. Let's do a rare zoom. Check it out. There it goes. Or should I say, here it comes. We'll also show the grayscale imagery. Some major solar prominence is happening. And just a reminder, a solar prominence is simply one of these filaments when it's hanging off the edge of the solar disk. It is the same feature as a filament. It's all about perspective in that case. And before we get the bonus features, here's some perspective from the GOES 18 SUVI. That is the past like 3 hours. Lots of filaments, lots of sunspots, high likelihood of large solar flares increasing as some of those major sunspots approach the limb. And here come bonus features. First thing we're starting out with is satellite charging hazards. We have some minor surface charging hazards there where low energy electrons will build up on the outside of spacecraft over places like the Western Indian Ocean, Eastern Africa, and the Middle East, places like Saudi Arabia seeing some surface charging overhead, no internal charging whatsoever. Next, the GOES electron flux, coming up off the floor here as we and NOAA agreed on our forecast there. You can expect to see this start to crater and become erroneous when CMEs start to strike. There's the one-year graph of the electron flux from Solon.info. Solon.info/solar if you want to go check out some recently updated data. The electron flux over the past year, and there is NOAA's forecast. So that's going to become wrong. By December 1st, that forecast will be wrong because when that CME strikes, the electron flux is going to come way down. Keep in mind it does become an erroneous reading when that occurs. I won't get into the physics of that either because this is the daily space weather. Anyway, next we'll show the ionosphere map. Feel free to pause the video in this frame if you're not familiar with distances in kilometers. Here is the ionosphere, the bridge between Earth and space. Like I said, we'll keep an eye on it. And if that imagery is all Greek to you, its vibrational frequency, don't worry. we'll show the anomalygram for all of you new viewers out there. So there you go. There's the anomalygram. Things are looking very normal. Like I said yesterday, if you're waiting for the apocalypse and you're expecting to see a signal for it in the ionosphere, keep waiting, because it's not there. There is absolutely nothing scary in any way about what's going on there. Things are looking entirely normal. There's 2300 universal time for the ionosonde, and there's 2300 universal time for the anomalygram. Anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. Next, wham! The whole atmosphere model, depicting total electron content and anomaly on the left, maximum usable radio frequency and anomaly on the right. A quick snapshot before we move on to total electron content. Feel free to pause the video on this frame if you're not familiar with distances in miles. There is a total electron content that's from ground level to about 12,500 miles of altitude. On a global basis, it'll show you the most likely places to see GPS errors, as signal refraction is caused by free electrons between you and your GPS satellite. Anyway, here's the anomaly in megahertz from the 10-day average over North America. It's literally a count of electrons from the inner portion of the outer Van Allen belt down to ground level. That GPS satellite must communicate through the outer plasmasphere, the inner Van Allen belt, the inner plasmasphere, and the ionosphere. Again, free electrons cause signal refraction. That's what the total electron content is all about. We'll close out our space weather segment before getting to meteorology with the latest intensity and latest colorized magnetogram. So there you go. Looks like a new active region may be rising up here. I see some magnetic organization there. It looks pretty minor. And here is the sunspot to remember, sunspot 3500. Will it cause geomagnetic storms to be producing aurora all the way down at Florida? It could be. That is a Beta Gamma Delta class sunspot group. And here's your full disk rockback. Whoops. There we go. So this sunspot group here is not named yet. As you can see, there's multiple sunspots there. This one's not named yet. And so we'll have at least, let's see, 3, 4, we'll have at least 20 more sunspots by tomorrow. Expect the sunspot number to be up to about 185 by tomorrow's daily space weather video, assuming none of these other groups degrade or other major growth doesn't happen. Anyway, that's where we'll close out space weather. It's time to get to Earth weather, and check it out. We've got some hilarious stuff here for the Grand Solar Minimum cultists. So all the Grand Solar Minimum cultists, now some of them diverged when Ben Davidson stopped idiotically talking about a Grand Solar Minimum, but there are still plenty of Grand Solar Minimum cultists who don't understand basic physics typically. And this is the most hilarious thing ever. Check it out. We've got some of the largest waves in the world right now are in between Greenland and Canada, and we have currents that are actually flowing toward the Beaufort Gyre. So when people are frightened that, oh no, we're going to see a deep freeze of the northern hemisphere, they're concerned about ice melt coming through the Beaufort, from the Beaufort Gyre, and then coming over here and getting into the North Atlantic and disrupting the Gulf Stream effectively. So the Beaufort Gyre is this area right in here, right here, which is now completely frozen. And look, water is actually rushing toward it. It's like a giant middle finger to the Grand Solar Minimum cult. Yeah, no year without a summer, folks. It's doing the exact opposite of what you need for your year without a summer. What a joke. What a joke. And by the way, my favorite part of every cult story is the part where the cult evaporates. That's the best part of every cult story, in my opinion. Anyway, the world's largest waves are actually there in the extreme northwestern Pacific. We have a stomach-shaped low-pressure system there that depicts significant wave height and surface winds. So a very strong low there southeast of Kamchatka. Those are the world's largest waves. And let's get to our regularly scheduled meteorology Oh yeah, the Beaufort Gyre, folks. The Beaufort Gyre. I'm spooked of it. Oh my God, the Beaufort Gyre. It's going to freeze the northern hemisphere, except we don't see that happening. So, anyway, here are the surface winds of the eastern world. Here are the jet streams of the east. Jet streams of the central world. Surface winds of Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Surface winds of the west. Jet streams of the west. And let's move on to clouds and fog. The shortwave radiation map, it'll show you when the aurora is likely to be able to be seen. Yeah, it shows clouds and fog even at nighttime, folks. As Brazil clouds up once again, right around sunset. Spring, it must be quite interesting in South America. A bunch of low clouds here over the northwestern Atlantic. Low clouds, folks. It's gloomy skies. And next, let's take a look at a quick snow forecast here. Here's the new snow forecast from the Euro model for the next 3 days. So there's the Euro model for new snow over the next 3 days. And there's the GFS model. They are in concordance for the most part. GFS Euro forecast for the next 3 days of new snow. That's where it's expected to be. Here comes our weather.gov map, weather.gov. Get your weather warnings if your location is lit. Weather.gov, click on the map, get your county's warnings. Those are too many counties for us to cover. But lots of wintry weather there showing up kind of early in the season. Here's a forecast for pressure and precipitation based on a GFS model. There you go. Pressure and precipitation, 72-hour GFS forecast. Total accumulated snow depth change in inches. GFS 72-hour forecast. Dag. That's a lot of snow coming to the west. I'm not going to rattle off the name of the states. There's the imagery. Deal with it. And next, temperature anomaly forecast in degrees Celsius. The same period of time, the GFS 72-hour forecast, same model. And unseasonably warm temperatures coming to the eastern portion of the U.S. here. Looks like maybe some good bike riding weather in Pennsylvania. How you like them apples? I like them. And here's lightning for the past about 10 hours. Lightning kicking up once again over Brazil. Brazil is becoming the lightning capital of the world this spring. And here's a real-time lightning map from lightningmaps.org. Lightningmaps.org. Highly recommend it next time you hear thunder. Convince the natives that you're Zeus or Thor or something like that by forecasting thunder. Maybe pretend you're a horror movie villain. I don't know. Lightningmaps.org, though. It's good times. By the way, it's good times when you press the like button. Did you know that it's good times when you press the like button? Did you know that it's a way to protect your soul from being cast into an ever-deepening and darkening abyss of doom, destruction, and dew-covered doo-doo? Yes, dew-covered, morning dew-covered doo-doo, folks. You don't want that raining down on your soul, right? Then press the like button. Especially if you're unable or unwilling to open your cobweb-encrusted wallet and increase the probability these videos will continue to exist, remain publicly visible and free for all to view, give Smash staff a raise by pressing share. If you're new to the channel, press subscribe. If you're mad about my request for you to press things on YouTube, then make sure you leave a rage comment. We will take it very seriously. We will not be dismissive, and we will not berate you on the internet. Pardon my sarcasm. And also, don't forget to ask a particle physicist. Yeah, if you want to ask a particle physicist a question, we've got a new segment that comes out each Friday. The deadline is whenever I wake up tomorrow. So you want to ask a particle physicist a question, the place to do it is at smashomash.com/forum. Smashomash.com/forum. One of the places you can click there is the General Science Forum. If you click that, boom, boom, boom. There you go. There's the Ask a Particle Physicist segment. And yeah, I mean, I just put up some submissions, but we will take viewer submissions over any of mine if they're good. Try to keep your questions concise. They should relate to particle physics, but We may change the name of the segment to Ask a Physicist. I don't know. It could be. So support the channel that way and make sure you follow us over on Twitter. Did you see the pathetic number of views on yesterday's video? What is wrong with the algorithm? It is completely busted. It is completely busted junkware. We had a pathetic number of views. And we don't get gaslit by big tech organizations who run monopolies and act like we're screwing up. We put the hashtags in the right places. We put the right stuff in the description. We put the right stuff in the contents. So I don't know what to tell you, except follow us over on Twitter. Thanks to our 2 new followers. Geez, we're almost at 500. I guess we ought to send out a Christmas gift to our 500th Twitter follower. Twitter, x.com/smashomash. And we'll close out with U.S. Doppler radar. Heavy storms there south of Alaska, the southern part of Alaska, including places like Anchorage. Anyway, here's a lower 48 view. That's vertical motion of the air column, Doppler radar. Here is the clouds and fog view. 3.9 micrometer infrared radiation from the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite Suite. And here is water vapor. And the country's going to get a little more moist here as the dry air is moving off into the Atlantic throughout the night tonight. Here's your recap. Ground-based Doppler radar systems. And no, those aren't chemtrails. Space-based shortwave radiation showing clouds and fog, even at nighttime. Water vapor showing as in all of the water vapor. And it's time to close this thing out because I'm spooked of space. Oh no, folks, I've been spooked from space because I watch channels that have zero ability to understand the physics and zero ability to forecast space weather in any way. Don't know why they have so many viewers. They've been gaslighting 500,000 people for the past couple of years. So, I don't know. They've convinced me, though. I'm very convinced by confident-sounding charlatans. So I'm going to climb myself back into the bunker because it's going back to the bunker again. All the stupid crap I heard encouraged me to climb in.